morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're live 8 o'clock through 10 a.m., Wednesday through Sunday, with our platforms also on Instagram and Twitter, as we are also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Like, comment, share, and subscribe when possible. Check out our great website at macandjack.com called Mac Sports Insiders for information on all the insiders, articles, team public relations updates, and our great sponsor links for their products and services. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer and former president of the National Boxing Writers Association, bringing you national sports with special focus on Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. How you doing today, Jack?
Great, Mac. How are you?
I'm hanging right in there, my friend. Today on the show, we have boxing expert Iceman John Scully, who will be bringing us some boxing news and updates. We have a lot of stuff going on here in the world of sports last night. A lot of sports news to get to. So we're going to get to that first. And our sports updates are brought to you by Fanatics. If you want to get the clothing of your favorite teams, jerseys, hats, all gear, we have the place for you, Fanatics. Just go to the macandjacksports.com website, Mac Sports Insiders. Click on their link, bringing you right to their store just in time for Christmas or your special someone's birthday, or just treat yourself to your favorite team's clothing and gear. That's macandjacksports.com. The website is Mac Sports Insiders. Click on the Fanatics links for all your team's clothing and gear, Jack. So, in our sport day update, we're going to start off in basketball, Jack. A big trade, or a big, I should say, switch of teams with Russell Westbrook going to Washington and Wall going to the Rockets. I don't know what that's really going to do for either team, Jack. Russell Westbrook is still a very exciting basketball player, not what he once was, getting a little old in the tooth. And Wall, who's been injured quite a bit, was highly touted coming out of college. Do you think that helps either team really, Jack, or is it just
who knows? That remains to be seen. But John Wall, like Russell Westbrook, has a big contract. So one big contract is really being moved for another. Also, Houston gets a draft choice. It sounds better than it actually is. It's a number one pick, but it's protected over a number of years.
right?
So we'll see. And also, Russell Westbrook gets to reunite with his old coach at KC, Scott Brooks, who's now the coach of the Washington Wizards. So that familiarity is going to be good for Russell Westbrook, that he knows he's going to get along with his coach because he's had him before. And we don't know how John Wall's game is now going to translate playing with James Harden. And John Wall is coming off a pretty bad injury himself. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Do you think Russell just wanted to get away from the Rockets and maybe even force this trade somewhat, Jack?
I don't think James Harden wanted Russell Westbrook there anymore. It wasn't personal. They just weren't playing well together, the same way Kevin Durant wasn't playing well with Russell Westbrook at OKC, the same way Paul George and Russell Westbrook really didn't work out as far as winning went when Paul George went to OKC. Not that Paul George did any better when he was with Kawhi Leonard. It's complex. I don't think it does much for really the Washington Wizards, outside of maybe giving them a little bump, but it doesn't do it. It won't help in the long run Washington to become a better team. At least it puts an end to all this New York Knicks talk with Russell Westbrook coming here.
Definitely. And one more free agent, of course, the Knicks can't get. LeBron signs a big 2-year extension with the Lakers. Of course, last year easily could have been the MVP. He's got a lot of wear on the tires being young. He's been playing for so long, Jack, but and so many championships, 2 extra games. But
Mac, an $85 million extension for 2 years, that'll really rejuvenate you. There's a little subplot here. A few years down the line, his son, Bronny, is going to be eligible to play, old enough to play at the NBA at some point. His son I'm not sure his exact age. I'm approximating it about 16 or
Yeah.
so. He might come out early and maybe just spend 1 year in college. And then LeBron would love to play for him.
Yeah.
So, but who knows how things like that work out? Because if Bronny really is outstanding and he's a very early draft pick, some team might draft him. And LeBron's hoping to set it up where he could be a free agent, and he would obviously take very low money to play with his son.
That's
Because,
a good.
when you have a fortune of money as is, you can do that.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jack.
Yeah.
Let's get to the game yesterday. The Steelers win 19-14 in a physical but mistake-riddled game yesterday. As I said, 19-14. I think the first period alone and almost the first 4 possession, there was 4 turnovers. The Ravens really couldn't move the ball. RG3, ran okay, but he sure couldn't throw the ball.
Threw a pick 6.
Yes. It still looks like, that injury that he had, that he still has problems with injuries as he hurt himself running with the ball, really not even getting hit. Finally, he put in the quarterback for the Ravens, McCory, who threw a touchdown pass, at the end. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they should have waited to play the games longer, Dak. I mean, the Ravens, they play physical. They were proudful, but even though the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe they took them for granted, or maybe they're thinking ahead to Washington. I don't know, but Pittsburgh really didn't look that good in the win, but a win's a win. You know what I mean?
Now, Mike Tomlin said they played like they were the JV. He coached like he was a JV coach. Not in all due respect to JV coaches. There were a lot of dropped balls by the Steelers. Even though Roethlisberger said he has to do a better job of placing the ball in the receiver's hands, those were catchable balls that receivers were dropping for sure. And RG3 pulling a hamstring, he actually blamed the NFL for that because he felt with this COVID situation, the league really isn't looking out for the safety of the players. That all the Ravens had before this game were 2 walkthroughs, which even though you want to imitate regular practices, that wasn't doing it. And he felt the league really wasn't looking out for the safety of the players in that game. But at this point, what's the league to really do? I mean, football, I don't have to tell you, Mac, isn't like baseball. It's a complex sport. Okay, preparation is a key. I mean, it's a key in any sport, but some sports you could just throw the players on the field and they can manage to get by and play the game. But in football, you risk a lot, if you're not really prepared.
I don't take a lot of what he said to heart, or even that it's reality, Jack. I mean, everybody should have pulled the hamstring muscle then. He has plenty of time, especially when they're not working out to work out by himself. I don't even get that statement saying they're not looking out for the welfare of the players because he pulled a hamstring. That's ridiculous. But, I mean, he can say what he wants. He's free to say what he wants. It was kind of, I don't know, minuscule to me. I mean, if you can't keep your body in shape with personal training, personal trainers, your own workout, going through drills yourself, and as far as running with the football goes, that's what he's supposed to be good at. So for him complaining about that to me is kind of ridiculous.
But at least we saw why RG3 is the backup to Lamar Jackson, because they play the same style of game.
Sure.
So the offense really didn't have to get tweaked that much with RG3, and at least the players know the system. They can play the same style.
Right.
And if you eliminate the pick 6 and the fact that RG3 just really didn't put many points on the board, I mean, he looked good going up and down the field. He's still
as long as
capable backup for sure.
As long as he didn't have to throw the ball, he looked great, Jack. I mean, McCory comes in and throws a touchdown at the end of the game.
Well, that was kind of a flukish play on that touchdown. I'm not.
Maybe
march the team down the field.
Maybe so, but again, I didn't see RG3. I think maybe he completed 3 or 4 passes, I think, at the end of the game. But again, the Pittsburgh Steelers couldn't get in the end zone for a few times. They were down there, Jack. They had to kick field goals. Again, maybe they just weren't ready. Maybe it was, the layoff, and then I think they're thinking ahead to the Monday night game where they got to get ready in a few days, which is going to be pretty tough for them to do.
Well, the Steelers have gotten jerked around. This game was supposed to be played Thanksgiving. They thought they'd have some time off, some well-earned time off, that Coach Tomlin was going to give them 2-3 days off to unwind. They never got that. And this game against the Ravens, it kept getting moved from Thanksgiving on Thursday to Sunday to Tuesday to Wednesday. And now they're playing on Monday. Now they're having like a short weekend. And then the following week, after playing Monday, they're going to have another short week because they'll be playing the following Sunday.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's
and I'll tell you,
not easy. Yeah, but let me tell you, the drums people are starting to beat to see can the Steelers go unbeaten. I still think it's way premature. They're 11-0. They need 5 more games in a row, which is perhaps doable to go 16-0. But one way or the other, they have that big roadblock that's going to be standing in the way that they're going to have to face at some point, no matter how well they do the rest of the way. And that's the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, they're really battling right now, I think, the way Kansas City is playing, and they will play to the end of the season for that home field advantage for the playoffs. Listen, I think Washington will give them everything they can handle.
Mac, you read my mind. I mean, we're going to discuss that game more in detail, and Washington's not going to be a pushover by any means. I mean, that's not a gimme for the Steelers to win that game.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. The 49ers are going to be playing in Arizona their next 2 home games because of the COVID restrictions out there in San Francisco, Jack. I'm just wondering, why did they have to go all the way to Arizona? Isn't there stadiums currently right there? Maybe a schedule problem with the Rams. I don't know. Isn't Oakland Stadium still available? I mean, I'm just wondering why they're going all the way out to Arizona when there's a couple stadiums right there in California that they may have to choose from.
I have no clue, Mac. With this situation with COVID, state to state, and it's the individual governors making decisions in conjunction with the mayors.
Yeah.
And just no clue. I mean, what's going with the 49ers? I mean, we're talking about it and we're confused. Imagine how the players feel. They don't know whether they're even coming or going.
Definitely. And I mean, hey, New Jersey has just as many cases as California does, and they're still playing over at Giant Stadium, or now it's called, what is it, MetLife Stadium now, Jack? I forget what the heck they call it now because of the combination of the Jets and Giants. The little baseball news, Jack, a lot of, people that are still out there to sign as free agents, people getting cut. The Braves cut power hitting outfielder Adam Duvall and signed a couple relief pitchers. Duvall was a decent outfielder, and I think he would be a good power hitter. I think he'd be a good pickup for a lot of teams, left-handed power, maybe the Yankees.
Yeah, a lot of teams that are supposedly cutting their players plan to re-sign them at a lower salary, and there are a lot of nice little pickups that can be had. I mean, people tend to look at the glamour names, especially here locally. Everyone's waiting for the Mets to make a splash. Right. Everyone's excited. I mean, they threw down the gauntlet with Trevor May as a middle reliever who, could help their staff. But the bottom line is the Mets really still don't have a reliable closer. If you want to count on Edwin Diaz, good luck, okay?
Yeah.
But at least maybe this latest signing of the Mets is going to allow Seth Lugo to stay in the starting rotation as opposed to putting him in the bullpen. But a lot of little things are really going to unfold. The Yankees, they tendered a contract to your guy, Gary Sanchez.
Yeah,
so
they didn't.
It kind of looks at the moment like the Yankees are going to be sticking with Gary Sanchez and seeing what happens, even though that's not guaranteed. Who knows?
A lot of times, Jack, they'll do that so that it doesn't go to arbitration, so that they may get
off. They would have lost him if they didn't tender contract. Another team could have picked him up.
True.
So, yeah.
So
He can
yeah,
turn the contract down, and then they can go to arbitration.
right. So
Yeah.
as you said, the Yanks they have a few people hanging out there. They got Gardner, who we'll see if they re-sign him. Of course,
They always
LeMay.
wait. They always save Gotti for last. It's
Right.
never like an urgency.
Well, LeMayu, of course, is the big one out there.
Yeah.
And you got three pitchers. You got Happ, you got Paxton, and Tanaka coming up. Do you think they hold on to any of those pitchers, Jack, or do you think they just?
Tanaka is intriguing because if last year was just a little bit of an off year for Tanaka, and he didn't perform well in his 2 postseason starts, and he normally always performs well in the postseason. So that's maybe that's revealing. But the scary part about a guy like Tanaka, if he does go elsewhere, let's say go somewhere like Toronto, and he's the Tanaka of old, you never forgive yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
And you can't have too much pitching. So whether they offer Tanaka, whether something works out, whether they bring Tanaka back, can work something out with them, remains to be seen. James Paxton, no one talks about him. Okay, too.
Yeah.
I mean, how important he could be to a team going forward. He was hurt last year, but he has a lot of upside.
Yeah, I mean, they're not, number 2 starters in any means, any 3 of these. Maybe not even number 3 starters anymore with Tanaka. So, I mean, I think that the Yankees are going to have to address their pitching staff big time this year. There's rumors that they're looking into there's a Japanese pitcher over there. I can't think of his name right now. I saw it real quick a couple days ago that they're showing interest in. I guess he's a real good pitcher in Japan that they're looking at. So we'll see. I mean, I think the Yanks have got some holes that they still got to fill, especially in rotation. I still think they need a catcher. And, of course, LeMayu, we'll see what they do with him. Boston, outfield Jackie Bradley's. They might want to sign him back because he is a good ball player. You got Castillo.
Jackie Bradley's a free agent, I believe.
Yeah, I'm just talking about as far as they may want to sign him back. I mean, I don't know what kind of look he'll get from other teams. He's a good ball player. And you got Colin McHugh is over there, and Martin Price. Again, these are some Boston players. They're probably in a rebuild mode anyway, Jack. But they got to. I would imagine they would want to hold on to Bradley.
Well, Boston's halfway. Corey Kluber is a free agent,
right?
And he didn't perform. Was outstanding with the Indians. Didn't perform well with Texas. It really didn't do anything for Texas, I should say. And he has a home in the Boston area. So that might be appealing to Corey Kluber to more or less go home. But the Yankees have interest in him as well.
Yeah.
So he could be an interesting pickup for some team.
Definitely. The Mets, they have a lot. I think there's 13 players that are coming up on contract. Jack, Todd Frazier would be the biggest one. Maybe Eduardo Nunez, maybe somebody they would want to hold on to.
Todd Frazier, if he's the biggest one for the Mets, who they're having a contract issue with right now, they don't have much to worry about. I mean, Todd Frazier, is the type of player. He's had a decent career he could be proud of. He's played for both the Yankees and Mets amongst some other teams. But Todd Frazier's one of those players you just keep to fill in a roster spot, basically, as a backup. If you have to rely on him as your everyday third baseman, that doesn't translate really into a championship caliber team potentially.
No, but a good ball player, Jack. They might want to bring him back for a little depth. I mean, he's done his thing when he's
depth is the word.
Yeah,
is the word.
Majority, I would imagine Cespedes won't be there next year. Ramos.
No, not after what Cespedes pulled this year, Mac. You're forgiving, Mac. You're about the only one who would take Cespedes back.
I would not.
He just leaves the team. He doesn't show up for the game. They're worried that something terrible happened to him, so they send out a search committee. They're in fear whether the man's alive or not. The man decided he just wanted to retire and didn't even bother to let him know. He blew it off. You want to know why? Because he had a fortune of money from the contract he had with the Mets, in which he was hurt by his own doing because he screwed around in the offseason. And he didn't even have the courtesy to let the Mets know what was going on, and you might bring him back.
No,
Yeah,
I don't.
Cespedes. Yeah, he could lose all his money and come to you hat in hand and say, "Oh, I was wrong," and beg you for forgiveness. And you'll say, "Oh, come back, Giannis Cespedes. We'll
Yeah,
have you back." And yeah,
I
come
don't
on,
think that,
come on.
I don't think that would happen. Ramos, of course, I don't think they're going to hold on to him. There's too many catchers out there.
No, they didn't. They basically cut ties with him
Yeah.
already.
I don't see Waka coming back either. I
Well,
mean,
we're
I
looking
think
at Realmuto with the Mets. I
you're
mean,
right.
that's their big
Well,
fish right now.
well, yeah, you got Relamuto, you got McCann out there, you got Molina out there. There's some really good catchers out there.
Well, Molina is the type of catcher who goes somewhere maybe no more than a 2-year deal. Shame on the Cardinals if they let Molina go. He's had really, in my opinion, at least a Hall of Fame career. He's been a great Cardinal over the course of his career. Putting in that many years for the Cardinals,
Yeah,
and the way and playing the way he has, and they would actually let him go. That should let all players know, as Bill Clinton once said, loyalty is a joke.
well,
Okay?
yeah. I mean, it's a
And
business when it comes down to it, Jack. It's a business first. I mean, there is some loyalty there. I think there will be some loyalty showed to Brett Gardner. I believe that. But I agree
well,
with you.
Gardner could still help the Yankees,
Yeah,
Mac. I mean, keep that in mind. This isn't charity because Gotti really helps because guys have been going down getting injured. Aaron Judge has
sure.
had an injury history. Okay? So having, Aaron Hicks has had an injury history. Having Gotti around who hasn't had an injury history helps because he gives you innings in the field, and when he's on the top of his game, he gives the team a little spark there.
Yeah, and Jack going to the Phillies, finishing up the locals. You got 9 free agents that are out there right now. Of course, Real Amudo is the biggest one. Didi Gregorius, shortstop, is going to be available, and you got David Phelps on the block. So I mean, you got a few good to great free agents over in Philadelphia that might be leaving too, Jack.
Well, Didi Gregorius went free agent last year because he wanted to reestablish his value after an off year. So he did it with the Phillies last year on a 1-year contract. And Didi Gregorius is going to help some team. I mean, I wouldn't mind him coming back to the Yankees. But the problem is, if he comes back to the Yankees, you got to put Gleyber Torres at second base. And if you re-sign LeMahieu, where are you going to put him? First
Yeah.
base would be a natural thing. And that means moving on from Luke Voigt. And after the year Luke Voigt had last year, outside of LeMahieu, he was the best position player for the Yankees when you think of what he did. He even improved a little bit defensively. He was the home run champion. And it's painful to move on from Luke Voigt, but it's sometimes, as they say, a player's value is never higher. But I don't know
Right.
what Luke Voigt would get in the trade market right now.
Yeah, I mean, he would get something, that's for sure. Major League Baseball launches a wood bat league, Jack, for the top eligible prospects, which leads me to the question: is why doesn't the whole minor league system use, wooden bats? I don't get that. I never have. This is what you're going. You're supposed to be there to move up to the major leagues, which don't allow the aluminum bats and our wooden bats. So I don't understand why they would launch a wood bat league when they could just make all the minor leagues and even colleges, Jack, if they're planning on moving on to go to wood bats. I don't get it.
I don't know, wood bats, whatever. I don't know, is it a safety thing? Mac, did you ever play softball
Oh yeah,
with the clincher? Did you ever pitch?
no, never pitched.
That's a scary thing. You're playing in your softball league. They have the aluminum bat in the clincher. I mean, that hard softball, and you're pitching, and the ball hit right back to you. The amazing thing about Major League Baseball, and I'm thankful for this, is the pitchers not getting hit with line drives in the face more often than it's happened.
Yeah,
I mean, that is scary the way the ball comes back at you as a rocket. I predict if someone ever gets badly hurt, and we keep our fingers crossed it never happens, that pitchers at some point I could see being forced to wear a little helmet. Not one of those thick helmets, something around to cover their forehead that's going to be made because it's scary.
I
It's
don't know.
scary.
It is, Jack, and I
Could
I
you see
don't
a
know.
picture, Matt? Could you ever see the day that a pitcher has on the equivalent of, let's say, a goalie's mask? I mean, maybe his the eyes are wide enough for his mouth, but enough to cover the head, the face.
No, I
Because
can't
it's
see it. I can't see that, Jack. I don't know how. To me that would interrupt their pitching big time.
Mac. But if someone told you years ago, could you ever see netting, not just behind the plate, but going all the way down the line to the whole
Yeah,
field?
that's more understandable because you're protecting the fans. But I mean, when a pitcher, if you're going to put some extra equipment on him, I mean, not only will it maybe hurt his concentration, but his delivery. I mean, I pitched for a while hardball, and there's enough pressure trying to get the ball over the plate and to be accurate and to work your changeups and everything. To have a face mask, I don't know if I could have done
Mac,
it.
before the pandemic, I went to Long Island Duck, a baseball game, a minor league affiliate of the Independent League. I had a seat on top of the third base dugout. Every time a left-hand batter came up to bat, my hands would go up like this because I was concerned. Foul balls were going off the bat and going quick
Sure,
past the dugout, and
sure.
it's
Well, a quick story on that, Jack. I went to see my first baseball game when I was like 7 years old. I went to see the Boston Red Sox versus the New York Yankees when the Yankees weren't that good. And me, my father, my grandfather, my mother, and my sister were there. And we were sitting right behind the Yankee dugout. And a ball got hit right over the dugout, a screaming grounder, and we all ducked. The whole row ducked.
yeah,
All I had to do was put up my hand. I probably might have stopped it, might have had a baseball. But first reaction was to hit the deck. So the woman
yeah.
behind us got hit in the eye, and her eye swollen about that big. And, of course, she got a baseball and a bat and signed and all the stuff they gave to her. But she made it. So, she was right directly behind us, and, it's part of the game. So I guess the netting is a good thing. The Phillies – they have claimed that they lost $145 million last year due to the COVID. Every team, I think, lost millions of dollars.
They had to because there wasn't no attendance. I
Right.
mean, yeah.
So, we had the Philly sports guy in there saying, oh, these owners are crying. Listen, they have plenty of money. A lot of their money is tied up. It's not like they're sitting on the billions of dollars in their back pocket in the house. All these millions and billions of dollars that they do have are normally working through channels. They're not liquidated, and they got a lot of businesses to run. So I get a little. I'm not saying I don't agree with his point to a point, but you can't keep asking owners. And I think this is going to affect, Jack, next year's contracts, maybe the year after contracts for the baseball players. They lost millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. Last year, and maybe this year coming up too, the way it looks.
I like the Philly guy, Mac. He's a good guy, good guest. I enjoy listening to him on. He's knowledgeable, but I very much disagree with what he said about the Phillies. If the Philly ownership doesn't want to sign anyone this year, they want to recoup their losses because of what's going on with the pandemic, I agree with him 100%. The Philly ownership has proved themselves. They signed Bryce Harper to the mega deal. They signed Didi Gregorius to a free agent contract. They signed Jake Arrieta to a free agent contract. They got Joe Girardi.
Yeah.
They've done it. They've gone out there. They've paid for players.
Yep.
These teams don't have monopoly money.
That's
they
true.
pay what they can afford.
That's true.
And what's going to happen? They're going to start comparing fans of teams, their team's owners, to that of Steve Cohen of the Mets. Steve Cohen's an unusual situation. He's filthy rich compared to the other owners, and he wants to come in and rightfully make a splash.
Right.
Okay, I'm a little surprised. I thought he would want to get his books in order.
Right.
But even with Steve Cohen, it remains to be seen. Signing one middle reliever so far, it's a nice, gentle start. But let's see when all is said and done where the free agents go, for how much money. I don't expect any owner to throw crazy money away. It's an investment when you're paying for a free agent, and it's got to be an investment that you can feel, pays dividends down the road.
Definitely, Jack. I mean, a lot of us say, "Well, this guy's got billions of dollars," and we're just talking. We don't know what business interests this guy has. We don't really know if this guy is wealthy on paper, maybe, but maybe in the bank not so wealthy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess I don't know if it's envy or it's my team and spend money. I hear a lot of Yankee fans. I hear a lot of and now Met fans thinking all of a sudden they're going to buy a championship. And, that doesn't work all the time. And I know teams that have spent millions and millions of dollars on a lot of big free agents, and it doesn't work out. So, I mean, you still got to have a good manager. You still got to have chemistry. You still got to have a team, and you still got to have them foot soldiers that do the hard jobs and don't just get up and hit home runs and just, pitch 20 games. I mean, there's a lot to going into making sure you have a competitive team. And that's when you start making your money, when you start going into the postseason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's pretty much it for our updates. Again, it was sponsored by Fanatics. Folks, go check out the website. A lot of great stuff in the store that you can order directly on the link there. Coming up in a minute, we'll have John the Iceman Scully will be joining us with a lot of boxing news, Jack. We got some fights coming up, and we got a lot of good stuff coming up in the world of boxing, and some big matches or some really good matches coming up. And we'll talk to him a little bit about Tyson Jones and maybe what's next for Tyson. And as we talked about before the show, a lot of money made off that entertainment fight. So while we got a shot, Jack, let me see if I got a trivia question for you before.
I'm just kind of laughing. Can you imagine this was 1995 and someone would tell you, Mac, let's fast forward 25 years from now, and you'd be saying, "Oh, what do you think about Tyson's next fight?"
I mean, yeah.
25 years from now, let's talk. Oh, what team do you think Mike Trout's going to sign with?
Ain't that crazy? Ain't that crazy? That's another subject as far as Mike Trout does. We'll get to that maybe later on this week because I got
Mike Trout signed to a long-term deal. I just used him as an example. Yeah.
I wonder if he's really happy with that right now that he did that long-term deal.
Well, the Angels are trying. They're signing guys. So
yeah,
I'm sure he seems like a loyal guy. I'm sure he appreciates the Angels' effort. And he's going to be an Angel for his career, I would think. But
I mean, he may miss out on one of the things that all league players want, and that's to go to a World Series, Jack. So I don't know. I don't know if he's. I would love to get him in a room and talk to him about that and see really what his feelings is on that long. I mean, it's great money wise, great for stability, but I mean, the Angels have not been in a position to win a pennant.
Well, they keep signing guys. They signed Anthony Rendon.
Yeah.
From the Nationals at a big deal last year. The Angels are making the effort to put Mike Trout in that position to go to the World Series. But unfortunately, they got Joe Madden as a manager. But the problem is the Angels just haven't played well. They've had injuries, haven't played well. You would think the law of averages would tell you that this is going to straighten out for them, but you're right. It has to be frustrating for them.
I would imagine. I mean, again, I think a lot of players love to love the money, but when it comes down to when the career is over,
Give me that trivia question.
Yes, sir. I'm going to give you that trivia question, Jack. So, as you know, following the Giants. As you have over the years. In 1990, the running back for the Giants was O.J. Anderson, Jack.
Yeah.
He was a great running back for a couple teams, and this one should be easy for you. I would hope, being the football knowledgeable guy you are. So O.J. Anderson came over to the Giants when he was a great running back. And what team did he play for before the Giants, Jack?
I believe St. Louis, correct?
St. Louis.
St. Louis Rams.
No, not the St. Louis Rams,
the
Jack.
Cardinals.
Yes, sir. There you go,
Jack. Come on.
I got you. You got that one, Jack. Just
Yeah, I mean, come
this,
on.
that goes back to
I mean, if I tell you Oakland Raiders when it's Las Vegas Raiders now, I mean, yeah,
yeah, I will give you credit definitely, but I'm just
yeah.
saying that's weird, right? The St. Louis
I
Cardinals
know.
we go back that far, man.
I'm having a hard time with some of these names that are going like Baltimore Colts, Baltimore Ravens. You say one, the other.
Right,
It's kind of like you're driving and it's the border between North and South Carolina. And
right.
you take a few steps, you drive like about 1 minute past one and you think you're North Carolina when you're really in South Carolina. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I know. It's just that the teams changing names have happened a lot in the last 20 years.
when I think about Jay Anderson, all I think about is that stiff arm in the Super Bowl.
Oh, I mean, with the St. Louis Cardinals, he used to eat us up when we played them. When the St. Louis Cardinals were actually in the NFC East, we had 5 teams. A lot of people.
He was like Derrick Henry Jr. times.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So we do have our next guest coming on. A lot of people know John from his boxing years, and we have the Iceman John Scully coming on, multiple Golden Glove champion, former middleweight, light heavyweight contender, worked with ESPN as an analyst, and he's a trainer of champions right now. So we'll bring up the Iceman John Scully. How you doing today, John?
Everything's good. How you guys doing?
Good morning, John.
Yeah, we were just
Hello.
talking. We were just talking, Iceman. How many? I don't know if you follow football as much as we do, but how many teams changed their names and move in the last like 20 years? I mean, you have the Cardinals, you got the Oilers that became the Ravens, that became the Texans. I mean, you forget who you're rooting for when you get old like us, John.
Yeah, to me, like the Houston, the Oilers will always be the Houston Oilers. I can't see anything else. And yeah, it's almost like the other teams, they don't count in my mind. Like I don't even consider them like a real team. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I just made a
Especially
mistake.
the Redskins, the
Oh,
new
my God.
what's it called? The football
Watching
team?
a football team, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing
keep that
I've ever
name.
heard. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's unbelievable.
You know what they should have been called? The Washington Footballers. They could have gotten away with the name called Footballers. But to be called football team, it sounds so stiff.
Right.
It's like John L. Sullivan's stance. Football team. Footballers has a little rhythm to it at least.
I don't know why, guys. They just didn't cut the name. They could have called them the Washington Reds or the Washington Skins. I mean, neither one of those would be, incorrect politically
Now,
anyway.
Skins, I don't think would have went over well. Yeah.
Anyway, John, let's get to a little boxing. I mean, we got that big match coming up Saturday. We've talked about it a lot leading up. It's finally here. You still giving Danny a shot at winning this title?
I mean, I'm not picking him, but I would say again, if there's a good time to fight Errol, this is it. Like he's got to jump on him early, hit him with something hard early on, get as many doubts as in his head as he can possibly get.
This fight is so difficult to predict, and I don't want to give a prediction on it because if Errol Spence is his old self, he's absolutely going to win the fight. There's no way Danny Garcia is beating Errol Spence if Spence is at his best. But after that automobile accident, we don't know what Spence has left. Maybe he's going to come into the ring and be as good as ever. Maybe he's just going to be a shell of his old self. It's impossible to tell. When you're thrown out of an automobile going at that speed, you nearly get killed and you're off a long, long time. I just don't know how his training's been going, what's been happening behind the scenes. And I don't pay attention to any of Errol Spence's big talk that he's going to destroy Garcia. I mean, it's just talk. I ignore that. So I have no clue what he has left. But I would absolutely pick Errol Spence if I knew he was going to show up as the Errol Spence that we know.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
We got.
See, he's to the point, Mac. Not like you. You would question this. what I'm saying, you'd look for an excuse to question it. You see, I
You
like
know,
answers like that.
You're
listen.
dead on. You're dead on accurate.
I'm
100%.
gonna tell you,
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna tell you right now, guys. Garcia's gonna beat him. So there you go. That's my prediction. How's that? So we got a I don't even know. Well, I was talking to Jack John about this earlier. You got a WBO super middleweight champ, Billy Joe Saunders, says he's going to send Martin Murray into retirement Friday night. Promoter Eddie Hearn hasn't said anything about the fight at all, which Eddie normally talks a lot. So Jack said he doesn't even really know if that's a belt. You know what I mean? But what do you think about Billy Joe Saunders?
I mean, I like him. I like, when he's shown a lot of skill. He's elusive. When he beat David Lemieux, I mean, he looked very good. He's definitely formidable. He's definitely a problem for guys.
Let me tell you, I don't know would you like him if you train him like his trainer John Davidson. Davidson was in Los Angeles, and Billy Joe, as a joke, called up and he canceled his trainer's flight. Just as a joke, but he caused a lot of inconvenience. But I guess because he could make a little money for his trainer stuck with him. But if a friend of yours did that, canceled your flight on you as a joke, and you had to spend an additional few extra hours at the airport, I don't think you'd be too amused.
Right. Yeah. That's that. I think that joke backfired a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see Better Beef doing that to you, Iceman, and you challenge him to a 10-round fight right there. I can see.
Well,
it.
John had a great line. Let me point out that I think I mentioned it in the column that I have coming up in Boxing News. I love this, what you said. Whenever there's a fight of championship caliber, you hear about the manager and the trainer saying that fight is like a son to him. They never say that about a preliminary guy who can't be a moneymaker. How come those guys never like sons to the manager and trainer?
Right.
Always the big money makers are like sons to him.
Oh, it's funny. Wow, I said that a couple years ago. Yeah,
I
that.
remember
Yeah,
that.
okay.
It stuck. Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's so funny to me. It's never, like I know guys like they'll have amateurs and they'll be like, "Oh, this kid's like a son to me." I go, "Really? The 3-time national champ is like a son, but the kid over there who's got 10 fights and he's lost 8 of them, he's not like your son." I mean, come on.
So John, just to follow up on Billy Joe Saunders, super middleweight, could he move up a division and maybe be a competitor?
Could Billy Joe move up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, I've never seen him in person. I don't really know how big he is. I can't really say for sure.
Well, let me tell you what I think is going to happen. He's promoted by Eddie Hearn now, who promotes Danny Jacobs, who's fighting gets super middleweight. So that's a natural fight, Billy Joe Saunders and Danny Jacobs. And what did you think of Danny Jacobs' performance against Gabe Rosado, John? I was pretty disappointed in how Danny looked.
Yeah, he looked off. But I think Gabe is a guy. It's funny. Like people look at a record and they say, "Oh, this guy's got whatever he's got, 9 losses. Oh, he's not that good." So, it doesn't mean anything. Like it's, if anything, that's a clear illustration that records at its core really don't mean anything. There's guys, they learn on the job. Gabe learned on the job. He knows how to fight regardless of how many losses he has. He made Danny look bad. Danny didn't look, super enthused, obviously. A lot of that had to do with Gabe, So, I think Danny's obviously, I know he's obviously going to have to be a lot better going forward.
John, what do you think about the fight coming up between Joshua and Kurbot? I guess they're fighting in London, December 12th. Is there any chance that Joshua, takes him for granted and maybe gets upset?
I mean, there's always the chance, but I can't imagine he would do so, all things considered, in his position, fighting at home, that kind of pressure. I wouldn't think so. And if anything, history has shown, it to happen many times, and you've got to be foolish not to learn from that.
The only thing that bothers me from Joshua's end about that fight is Corbett, even though he has a lot less skills, has one characteristic. He's big, he's strong, he moves forward. So, and Joshua doesn't strike me as the mentally toughest guy. So you kind of just wonder what Joshua's resolve is going to be. He has enough money to last him a lifetime now, Joshua. So you wonder whether that element enters his head when the going gets tough.
Yeah, I mean that's always I always used, when I was younger, I used to wonder. Like I remember when Sugar Ray Leonard fought Tommy Hearns, they made $10 million. And I was like, man, like, how do you get up and run at 5 a.m. when you have $10 million in the bank? Like, it's just it takes a special person to be able to do that. I mean, the average person, if you gave them, 1 million for the rest of their lives, they'd be on vacation all the time. They'd be hanging out, eating Doritos. So it's
Andy Ruiz. There you go.
Yeah.
Some money and hasn't fought since the Joshua rematch.
Right. And what's funny? I called that with Andy Ruiz. As soon as he won the big fight, I saw pictures of him, and he bought the extravagant house, and he bought this and that. He bought a really nice car. And as soon as I saw that, I went, he's done. Like he can't handle success, and he's not gonna react well to it. And that's what happened.
Yeah,
that is crazy. I mean, I saw that too. How old was I don't remember how old was he when he won that fight, guys? When Ruiz won that,
I'm not even sure.
I'm not sure of his exact age. I don't recall it now. I mean, ages in boxing, it's relative. I don't think it's that important. Certain fighters develop a little more later. Some sooner. Some are phenoms when they're young, and then they burn out later on. I think a lot of it's mental, especially these phenoms who are outstanding when they're 19, 20. They're usually not that way once they hit 30.
Yeah, I mean, I can see something maybe with maturity there, because I've seen a lot of people that all of a sudden get a lot of money or a great job, and all of a sudden they just lose their mind. So maybe it's a little bit maturity. Tyson versus Jones, Iceman. I mean, they had over 1 million views on PPV. I think it was $50 a pop. Quite an event. Made a lot of money.
1.2 million.
Yeah, quite a cash day for both of them. Now, Holyfield has called out Tyson. I saw a couple of videos of Holyfield a while ago, and he seemed to have a problem speaking. I don't know if that's normal for him. I talked to Jack about if that was a normal thing, about his speech, or maybe it was because too many shots. What do you think about Holyfield and Tyson?
I care nothing at all about it. I couldn't care any less. Literally, like minus 1 million. That is how much I care about that fight.
I do.
But let me tell you something. If Mike Tyson fought Tyson Fury, and they said it was going to be a real fight, not an exhibition, it would break all records for pay-per-view. I could just see people having Super Bowl type parties for the fight, the whole thing, and taking it extremely seriously. I mean, they wouldn't be boxing fans, the vast majority, of course. That's what would make the fight. But the name Mike Tyson is like magic. Holyfield's trying to go Tyson into a fight/exhibition, whatever you want to call it. And Tyson says Evander should speak to him, that his people are giving him bad advice. I think Evander's people are thinking Evander should get a 50-50 split. But let's be honest about it, John. Let's say they were to do this exhibition and fight from a business end. If Holyfield would announce he was fighting Roy Jones, it wouldn't do a fraction of the business that a Tyson fight would do. I mean, the name Mike Tyson, for whatever reason, is magic. It's charismatic. It's box office. It's amazing.
Right. It's yeah, he's a guy. When I was a kid, my father used to tell me, he says, some guys, forget about talent or skills or whatever, they have a certain it factor. And, he said, like, some guys are meant to play the big room, some guys are meant to play the smaller room. And he would say, like, Sinatra had it, Elvis had it, other
Yeah.
guys didn't. You know what I mean? And something about Tyson, like he could do anything, and people would be so excited to see him. And he's the guy. There's certain people who could stop traffic in Times Square.
Yeah.
He's one of them. He's one of them.
Very true. Oscar De La Hoya says that Ryan Garcia to fight Teofimo Lopez in 2021. He's talking about Bob Arum has been in contact with some of his people. I don't know. That would be a great fight if they do set it up, John.
Well, I mean, it's an elite fight. That's a good fight. Garcia, is still like he's a product of the era, though. I think he's good, but the fact is, the only reason I really know who he is because of like YouTube and Instagram, and he's put up these videos and like there was a kid. I give an example of how amazingly powerful social media is. And I don't know, I've never seen this guy fight. If you remember, Jack, you'll remember, I think there was a kid about 3 or 4 years ago. He died. He was from Las Vegas. He had cancer, but he's a fighter. But before he died, he was on Instagram with all these guys, like he would, especially with Floyd. He'd be with Floyd. And I said, wow, this guy must be really good. He's with all these guys. And somebody told me, they go, he'll go to gyms and take pictures with these guys and put them up and act like they're good friends. Now, I guess he was a decent fighter, but I don't know anything about him as a fighter. I forget it. I wish I could remember his name, but he died of cancer about 2 years ago. But he got very well known. I assumed he was really good, strictly based on the fact that he was on Instagram so often with so many fighters. I figured he must be good. He's hanging out with all these guys in the gym. So that's how powerful social media is. And you see with the guy like Jake Paul, who I don't even know who he is. I don't even know what he does, but they say he does.
Yeah. Yeah, he's gotten better.
I don't even know what that means.
At least he's taking boxing seriously. But with Ryan Garcia, the day of reckoning is coming for him where it's not just going to be hype. He fights Luke Campbell next month. And Luke Campbell is a serious contender. And Campbell's promoter, Eddie Hearn, who normally isn't going to boast, he said several times he doesn't understand why Garcia's people have taken this fight. He really does believe Luke Campbell's going to win. Now, normally promoters just say that about their fighter. But in this case, you get the feeling that Hearn really is puzzled because Luke Campbell's an Olympic gold medalist. He's seasoned. He gave Vasily Lomachenko a good fight and losing a decision. So this is basically going to tell us a lot about Ryan Garcia. If he should dominate this fight against Luke Campbell, yeah, he's the real thing. Then you could put him up besides Teofimo Lopez, Gervonta Davis, Devon Haney. You put him as part of that group. But he could fall by the wayside in this fight. You never know. It is intriguing what's going to take place next month. Ryan Garcia against Luke Campbell.
Right, 100%. I mean, there's always going to be that one fight that's behind all the hype and the records and all those things. You're either going to pass or you're going to fail the test, and this is his test.
Yeah, definitely. Iceman, I never asked you this on the air, and I know you've got a fan page and you got the the Iceman Diaries. Can you tell people a little bit about that?
Well, I've been writing it for a long time. I've got a book that I've been writing about my experiences in boxing, and basically it started about 15 years ago, more. I was on these message boards and with a lot of people, I mean, hundreds of people. Back in the day, the AOL message board was the place to be. I mean, everybody was on there. So they would talk about, say, Tyson, and I would tell a story about meeting Tyson or whatever. And after a while, so many people said, wow, these are amazing stories. You should put these together and you should put them in a book. Like, people would buy it. And I thought about it and I said, I do have some pretty good stuff. And so I started writing a book, and I've been writing it for a long time. I have if I say so myself, I have some really good content. And the problem has been, honestly, my computer for the last year or so has really been messed up. And I just bought one about a week ago. So now I'll be able to actually finish it. But it's basically people I've met in the game, places I've been, people I've sparred with, people I've fought, Michael Nunn, Henry Maskey, things like that. My how I got started in boxing. And I think it's the type of book a fan would like. Fighters are definitely going to like it. And, anybody who's come up in the game, I tell how I started boxing, which is similar to probably how a lot of people started. When a brief thing, like when I just found my record, when I was a kid, this is 1979, so I was 12 years old. I started a boxing league called the WBC. It was the Windsor Boxing Council, my hometown. And I had the Windsor Boxing Council, the WBC, and I would fight kids in the neighborhood. We would fight, on my back porch. We would fight under a tree. We'd fight in the park, and we had judges and everything. And I just found my record from 1980 and 81 and 82, actually. I just found my record the other day. So I was 9-0, 7 knockouts.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great stuff, John. So any big news on you're one of the trainers for Better Beef. Any news on him on upcoming fights that we should be looking for?
They're talking about December, but I have not heard. I'm still waiting for the call. So this COVID is a nightmare. It's really, really caused a lot of problems. So I don't know.
We're going to have on Joe Smith in the not too distant future, and it'll be interesting what he has to say about Artur Beterbiev. Yeah.
Definitely. So John, we're going to let you go and get back to the rest of the show. Again, thank you for coming in. I really enjoy. You're one of my favorite people to come on. Very knowledgeable, colorful too. You say it like it is. I love it. So you have a great day, a great week, and hopefully Better Beef can get back to boxing soon, John.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Have a good show, and I'll see you next week.
Take care, John. Thanks.
Thanks again, John. So there you go, the Iceman and John Scully. I never talked to him about his diaries or his fan page. I've never done. I've had him on our show, on previous shows. So I was always interested in asking him about that. He met a lot of people. Just got done talking to Mike Tyson, and
John still has the boxing bug, Mac, and he's friends with Mike Tyson. Maybe he could have Mike arrange for John to be on the undercard boxing exhibition.
There you go. Yeah, maybe
on one of his shows. Yeah.
I mean, one of his great fights that John had. Maybe they could put him in one of his past matches he had. Maybe they could put him on the card. That would be great.
One, John Scully against Bobby Ches.
Yeah, there you go. That would be great.
Yeah, exhibition, right?
Hey, listen, John's right from around my area. Maybe I'll contact him to see if he'd be interested in doing that. Yeah. The way he talks about it, I don't think so. So anyway, Jack, I love having a guy on. He's fun to have, and he's right from my local area, which is great. So So anyway, so we're gonna get into our first commercial, guys. We'll be back right on the other side with some more great sports information and stuff for you. So stick around, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're here for you Wednesday through Sunday live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch on from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And Jack, we just had on the Iceman, John Scully, who, again, one of the most knowledgeable guys I know besides you that really knows a lot about boxing. He's been boxing all his life and has moved through and now one of the trainers for Arter Better Beef. So be interesting if we can get Joe Smith to come on, a light heavyweight contender, and maybe even on the same day. We'll see what happens. That will be great program.
If anyone could get it done, it's you, Mac. I'm confident you could get it done.
Thank you for the
And
compliment.
if all the parties are mad afterwards, they'll be upset with you. Would have corrected it. Okay.
I don't think they'll be upset, Jack. It would be fun to have them both on the show. We haven't done this for a while, Jack. I want to do a thought for the day, and followed by that, we're going to do Ain't Gonna Happen, and we'll be talking about some things in sports that are or ain't going to happen. But first, on a thought of the day, I want to take time to ask what happened to the NFC East. So after 11 games, the first place team is 4-7. Which is almost embarrassing. It's not strong enough word to describe the division. The division has won more Super Bowls and championships than any other division in the NFL. I mean, teams go through rebuilding years, but not all teams being this bad at once. I guess only the two teams rebuilding are really the Giants and Washington and have shown some competitiveness. But the Eagles and Dallas aren't rebuilding, and it looks like they may have to start rebuilding next year. The Cowboys have 5 Super Bowls, the Giants 4, Washington 4, the Eagles 1. Teams from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even the 2000s, the NFC dominated the NFL. So what has changed? And Jack, there's only one thing that I can think of that's really changed, and that's the 2 newer owners. We've talked about it before. It seems like that, they're on the sidelines, they're in the media, not so much, the owner for the Redskins, because of that little controversy he had with that little secret escort service that pitted coaches against players, where a coach actually pulled an offensive tackle out of the game because the girl he was seeing was also seeing the offensive tackle.
I don't know whether that's accurate, Mac. But,
Well,
yeah.
it's been reported, Jack. So whether it's accurate or not, I don't know. But I mean, this leads to to problems where it seems like the owners are more into themselves than the team. You could say Jerry Jones does care, but when he has his family involved in GMing and making moves, I mean, that doesn't really hold anybody accountable, Jack. What that does is give inside. I don't want to say inside information, but there's no accountability. When you hire a GM or you hire a head coach, they're accountable for their actions. When you have a son or a nephew or part of the family, I mean, what do? Do you yell at him at Thanksgiving? I don't know. I'm just saying that it seems to me, Dallas had that Super Bowl run. He fires Jimmy Johnson, who was a great coach, Hall of Fame coach, hires, his friend and
Barry Switzer.
And he goes to the Super Bowl, but with Jimmy Johnson's team. And then you got an owner that actually last year called down the sidelines and told the starting quarterback he was out of the game without telling the coach. They've turned it around a little bit. They got a great head coach over there right now, and Washington seems to be going in the right directions, and the Giants with Judge seems to be going in the right directions. But, Jack, I can't remember a division this bad.
It goes in cycles. I mean, the Redskins' defense is good now. It's getting better. So I see a decent future for the Redskins. The Giants with Joe Judge in the right direction. The Eagles did win the Super Bowl 3 years ago, so they're having a little bit of a downtime now, and let's see how they turn it around. And good things were expected of the Cowboys this year. No one expected them to be this bad. Injuries and not. So that's kind of puzzling. You made a remark about Barry Switzer winning with Jimmy Johnson's team. I don't give Jimmy Johnson as much credit as other people do. They want to make Jerry Jones to be out the villain, Jimmy Johnson to be the good guy. Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones benefited big time by that Herschel Walker trade to the Minnesota Vikings, where they got a ton of top draft choices, and they drafted great. Kudos to them.
Good point.
Players they drafted. They did a phenomenal job. But after winning a couple of Super Bowls, they had a parting of the ways because they couldn't get along, Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones. And 2 years later with Barry Switzer, they won the Super Bowl. But let me point out, Jimmy Johnson took over for Don Shula as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins.
True.
Well, Jimmy Johnson didn't make a serious run for the Super Bowl. He got in the playoffs 3 of the 4 years, the same way Don Shula did. Don Shula always took his team to the playoffs. They got bumped. What did Jimmy Johnson do his first year? He took over for Don Shula. They went 8-8.
True.
And that was a team that was in the playoffs the year before, and they didn't make the playoffs, the Dolphins, under Jimmy Johnson. So I don't want to hear how great Jimmy Johnson is, because if he was such a great coach, the Dolphins would have made a serious Super Bowl run at some point. Okay?
Yeah.
Basically, they worked it together, Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson. There should be equal credit there. Shame on both of them for not getting along, okay, with one another to keep it going. I think it falls on both of them. And a lot falls on Jerry Jones. I'm not exonerating him by any means. But they did win the Super Bowl 2 years later. I don't want to hear it was Jimmy Johnson's team. They won it without Jimmy Johnson there.
Very true. But that the coaches, even in San Francisco, when Bill Walsh left, and I'm trying to remember, I'm having a brain freeze on the head
George
coach.
Seifert.
Yeah, he took over, and of course they credited Bill Walsh for building that program.
Yeah, exactly.
And I
Wanna hear
do
about
think
that.
it does take away from the newer coach. I agree with that somewhat, and I still can't get over how Jerry Jones let go of Tom Landry. That really bothered me. That man did more for Dallas. I mean, he started the team, brought them to Super Bowls. They were, they dominated them and the Redskins somewhat when Landry was there. He might have lost a little something, but he could have been a lot more classy in the way
it was done, Mac. You're right. Not that it was done. Tom Landry'd been with Dallas 29 years.
Right.
And the Dallas Cowboys were slipping at that point.
Right.
I think they were something like 7-9 or maybe 3-11 the last year with Landry. I forgot the exact record, but they were slipping. They were going downhill. And if you're a new owner, you're absolutely entitled to bring in your own people.
Right.
Absolutely entitled. You're not obligated to stick with the old people. However, Tom Landry was an institution, a legend. It could have been handled better, where you could have found something for him to do in the organization, and you could have worked out some type of thing to ease his feelings rather than him reading about it in the newspaper. It kind of slipped out. And it was just handled poorly because it's a delicate situation.
Definitely.
You have to move on from someone iconic. Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, when he left the Giants as the defensive coordinator to start the Cowboys, he had one win that first year, and of course, it was against the Giants. And he built that franchise. Him, and of course, you got to give Tex Stram some credit too.
And Gil Brandt, the whole group.
I mean, these guys really went to work and were ahead of their time. Back then with the computers and analyzing and of course analytics. I mean, they started the revolution in football with that. But again, I think that kind of soured me to Jerry Johnson right from the get-go. I don't like the way he's handled a lot of things. I mean, he's kind of made the Dallas Stadium
Jerry Jones, yeah.
He kind of made the Cowboy Stadium more of a show than
Jerry's world.
Yes,
that's what it's called.
Very true, Jack.
Hey, listen. Listen. I mean, he's a charismatic owner. Charismatic owners are nothing new in sports. We had George Steinbrenner. Look at how hated George Steinbrenner was during his heyday with the Yankees. And now Yankee fans look on very fondly at George Steinbrenner. They say, oh, we wish George Steinbrenner was still running the Yankees because they like the style, the way he got things done. Charlie Finley, absolutely hated, okay?
Yeah,
and now they appreciate him. Wait, let me take that back. I don't want to say they appreciate him, but they appreciate the accomplishments of the Oakland Athletics, winning the 3 World Series in a row. And yeah,
definitely. I mean, he did take that organization and he did make it a World Series winner. So I guess you're right, Jack. I guess the personalities. We were talking a little bit earlier before the show. The way that Steinbrenner handled Roy White and some of the great players, and they weren't the names of Reggie Jackson and stuff, but these guys gave their career to a team, and they didn't really handle that too well either. I don't care what your feelings are about way a person handles his business or how he plays. If the man is there day in, day out and competes and helps win World Series, I think you should, give him his due at least. And till today, Jack, there's still no Roy White Day or no plaque for Roy White at Yankee Stadium when this man was there during the lean years and really, played outstanding during one World Series where he led off with home runs and really played well. And, that's a shame when you got players like that aren't the big names like Reggie Jackson and Thurman Munson, but go out there and contribute and really give their all and are really good ball players, Jack.
Mac, I'm tired of all these retired numbers. We're going to run out of numbers.
Yeah, I'm not talking about retired. I'm not even talking about retiring his jersey.
Roy White a plaque in Monument Park. It's something up for consideration. Yeah, Roy White was a consistently good Yankee. If for those younger fans, he was the equivalent of, let's say, would you agree with this? Something like Brett Gardner.
I
You could say a little better
little better,
offensively,
maybe.
but Brett Gardner was a little better defensively than Roy
Right.
White.
Right.
So, are we going to be saying years from now that the Yankees should be putting a plaque out in the center field for Brett Gardner? Let's say Brett Gardner resigns with the Yankees, plays 3 more years at the level he's been playing on, and then retires and has something like a 15-year Yankee career. That would be wonderful. You could call
Right.
him a great Yankee, but not really a great Yankee.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to put him in.
I mean, I like the idea you have a day for the guy,
Yeah.
like a Brett Gardner day, a Roy White day, but to put a plaque out there for him necessarily, I mean, I'm not that sure. At what point are we going to stop? I'm not sure whether Bobby Mercer has a plaque out there.
True, but I would even, Jack, with the career that Roy White had with the Yankees, even though Bobby Mercer had a good career, I still think Roy White had a better career, a little bit better than Bobby Mercer with the Yankees. And I mean, you could even compare him to Willie Randolph somewhat, where I think he was even a little bit better as far as in the big moments than Willie Randolph was. Not that Willie Randolph is anything to sneeze at, a great defensive second baseman, but I think Roy White, I think he deserves some notoriety, some kind of plaque, some kind of something out there, because he was there when the Yankees were bad, and he was one of the only good ball players on the team. And then when the World Series came around, he did.
He was still there. He was still there. Yeah. I mean, listen, he had a 271 lifetime batting average.
Right.
But I guess when you consider how bad some of those Yankee teams were that he was on, that was pretty good.
Yes.
I mean, he was a wonderful Yankee. He drew walks. He was consistent, so on. I remember, the 1977 American League playoff game 5 to decide who would go to the World Series. I mean, I remember the 9th inning. The Yankees are down 1 run. Paul Blair leads off with a single. Next up is Roy White, man on first, no outs. He draws a walk.
Right.
Might seem to some people, well, he didn't do anything. He didn't swing the bat. But he had a sharp enough eye to draw the walk and get Paul Blair to second base in scoring position, no outs. And that was Roy White, very smart, heady player. His teammates loved him. I remember Sparky Lyle saying he could never understand why George Steinbrenner didn't like Roy White. He thought it was ridiculous. He thought Roy White's game was outstanding.
Yeah,
they all loved him, the Yankee players.
Yeah, they really did, and he did go on to coach the Yankees with and did really well as a bench coach and a third base coach.
Good glove, but not a good arm, really.
Exactly. And some good speed and a little bit of pop in his bat. So
good speed, yeah.
So anyway, we're gonna push on, Jack, to Ain't Gonna Happen, and we got a new sponsor, BST.com, and put up a little overlay for them. There you are. They have a big giveaway coming, and we do got a little bit of a commercial read for them. So, folks, if you really want to go ahead and get some great cards and autographed jerseys, it's BST.com.
From the best in wax straight to the pack, BST Sports Cards has it all. Join the phenomenon with the best sports card breakers in the business. BSTBreaks.com. Get $10 off select breaks and boxes when you enter the code MACJACK, MACJACK at checkout on the BST Sports website. Also, in every spot you purchase from now to December 31st gets you entered in their end of 2020 giveaway. Some prizes included $500 break credit, multiple authenticated jerseys, boxes, and more. This is huge. And you know what's great? They give back to their community. Over 100 winners announced on December 31st. More details on their website. Don't forget to put in the MACJAC code MACJACK at checkout to receive a special discount from BST. Happy holidays from BST and Mac and Jack. BSTBreaks.com, breaking live on multiple platforms daily.
So there you go, Jack. For our new sponsor, BST Sports Cards, just in time for the
Good
holidays.
stuff.
Yeah, you go in there, you use our code, Jack. They're sponsoring your Ain't Gonna Happen. And, with that Mac Jack code, you get $10 off right when you go to go ahead and fulfill your order at the end. You just pop that in, get a $10 off. They're already
Good gift with the holiday season coming up.
Exactly. Authenticated jerseys. I mean, these guys got it all, and we're glad to have them aboard. So we're going to go and get to Ain't Gonna Happen. This is one of my favorite segments with you, Jack, when I get your opinion on what and what not can happen here in the future in sports. So let's get her started. Doug Peterson will be the head coach of the Eagles next year, Jack.
Ain't gonna happen. I don't see Doug Peterson staying. He might not get fired, but I think basically he's about had it. He's a Super Bowl winning coach, and you get to be a little tired of all the nonsense. I don't think he wants to go through another year of what he's going through this way. Maybe he gets fired, but if he doesn't, I think Doug Peterson voluntarily at the end of the year says that's it, he's moving on.
You know what's funny about that, Jack? I think it should be different. I think Peterson should be allowed to stay, and maybe Carson Wentz should be allowed to go. I don't know.
Why does Peterson want to stay? I mean, I'm not saying he's going to get fired. I'm saying he's not going to be there. Either he gets fired or he's just going to want to leave on his own.
I believe you're right, Jack. And the Jets will take a quarterback with their first-round pick, Jack. Now, think about that. If they do take it, that means Sam Darnold is through. So will the Jets take a quarterback with
It's
the first?
It's going to happen unless the Jets somehow win 2-3 games and fall out of position to get the quarterback they want. But assuming the Jets have the number 1 overall pick in the draft, it's going to happen. They can't pass up Trevor Lawrence. Whether they still believe in Sam Darnold or not, they have to change the culture of the organization, and Trevor Lawrence is going to change the culture. Plus, he's the real thing. I mean, he's going to be a top-line NFL quarterback.
I definitely agree with that. The Giants' backup quarterback, Colt McCoy, will throw more than 1 touchdown on Sunday against Seattle, Jack.
Ain't going to happen. I mean, their pass rush hasn't always been the best, but we're talking about 2 touchdown passes. I think the Giants' game plan is going to be to run a lot. I guess ain't going to happen.
Okay, all right. You know something? I agree with you. If he gets 1 touchdown, I'll be happy. The Bills will win the AFC East, Jack.
Wow. A couple of weeks ago, I was saying Miami was going to win it. Miami lost that game to Denver a couple of weeks ago. That was a surprise. That hurt. I'm going back and forth. Okay. Yeah. I mean, week to week. Next week, I might say Miami's going to win it. Right now, I got a feeling this is now Buffalo's time, that it's going to happen, that they're going to ultimately land on top. And I know I said a couple of weeks ago it's going to be Miami. Don't hold me to this. This is just me talking today, thinking Buffalo is going to hold on and they're going to win the AFC East. Next week, I might say it's Miami.
You know, Jack, I really believe more than ever. I mean, I always thought Miami would challenge, but right now I think the Bills are definitely going to win the AFC East. The Patriots will get in the playoffs at least as a wild card, Jack.
Ain't going to happen. I mean, the Patriots, they're a game under 500 now. So the Patriots, let's see how they finish up. If they finish up 8-8 on the season, I think that would be a good thing if they avoided a losing season, considering all the turmoil, the players they lost to COVID. They have an older defensive team. They have one of the older defensive units in the league. I mean, that's going to really have to be addressed. I don't see the Patriots even making that serious a run at it. I mean, if they go 8-8 in the year, I would consider it at this point a successful season in the sense that they rebounded from what looked like it was going to be a disastrous year.
Well, you know, Jack, if you look at the overall picture with the Ravens falling, the Raiders looked looked terrible last week. They might bounce back, but 8-8 might get you in. I mean, especially with the extra playoff teams this year, that might get them in. And if they do finish at 8-8, I agree with you. It's a successful season, I think, for what they went through. But that wild card is still up there for grabs, Jack.
Well, the league hasn't completely clarified things. I mean, that's what I don't like about this whole situation. To all of a sudden, because of COVID, to perhaps add another playoff team. I mean, I just don't like it.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. The Yankees will make a huge trade to get a starting rotation pitcher, Jack.
Ain't going to happen. What are they going to trade to get a huge starting rotation pitcher? I mean, they're either getting Trevor Bauer as a free agent, maybe they could get Corey Kluber, who's still out there. But who exactly are they going to trade? I mean, their biggest chip isn't Luke Voigt. Luke Voigt's not going to fetch a top-of-the-line starting pitcher. Don't tell me he was the home run champion. He's this or that. Luke Voigt is one of those players who put up great numbers last year, was invaluable to the Yankees, but he's not going to fetch a top-of-the-line starting pitcher.
Right.
Top pitching's hard to come by. The only chip they have, if they're willing to part with, who could get an outstanding pitcher for them, would be Gleyber Torres. That's the only big chip that they have. And would they be willing to part with Gleyber Torres? I don't think so. I don't think you part with a talent like that. So
I mean,
suppose
they package it up, Jack. Suppose they give him Voigt in the third baseman for a starting rotation.
Gio Urshela.
You don't think that would
I just don't see it. I mean, with players on the market. I mean, it's not like it was years ago where a position player, you could trade him for a good starting pitcher. Pitchers are invaluable, the top of the line starters. And if the Yankees need pitching that badly, I mean, they could go back to Tanaka. They could go back to Paxton. I mean, you could get any pitcher just about on the market if you're willing to pay. And if the Yankees are willing to overpay for Trevor Bauer, that's going to solve their problem right there.
I agree. The Red Sox, they start turning things around next year, get competitive under new manager Cora starting this next year, Jack.
Well, imagine Alex Cora. He went from the penthouse to basically the outhouse. You know, the world champion Boston Red Sox to where he is now. The Red Sox are caught in between. They're in a rebuilding mode, but they also have a few chips where they think, well, maybe we could win if we tweak this team a bit. So the Red Sox are caught between still trying to be competitive because they have a fan base that demands they be competitive, but they really have a little ways to go before they get back to where they were, 2-3 years ago.
I definitely agree with that. Let's see, Jack, one last one for you. The Sixers become a championship favorite from the East with the hiring of Doc Rivers.
Ain't gonna happen. Listen, I like Doc Rivers as a person. Okay, he seems to be a first-rate human being, and he was a good coach. I mean, he was an excellent coach for the Boston Celtics. They won an NBA title. He was with the LA Clippers for 7 years, and the energy in Philadelphia is because the Sixers hired Doc Rivers as their head coach, and everyone is all excited about it. What did Doc Rivers do with the Clippers? He had Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. They constantly underachieved. Last year, he had Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and they underachieved. And even Paul George said yesterday that the Clippers failed to make any adjustments during the playoffs. Now, who does that fall on if you didn't make any adjustments? He said the Clippers kept thinking they were going to win on talent. So clearly, Doc Rivers didn't get it done, with the Clippers. But Daryl Morey, the Rocket GM, he's with the Sixers now. So they're making moves. So perhaps a year from now, they'll be in position to seriously challenge, for the East, to represent the East in the finals. And they have a shot this year. Don't get me wrong. There's talent on that team. but I just don't see them being quite on the level of the Brooklyn Nets, for example, or the Milwaukee Bucks.
That's a good point, Jack. I mean, the Nets really do, depending on, the chemistry in that locker room and outside influence don't affect them. They should be the favorite. The Bucks, I just don't have no faith in the Bucks anymore. The Celtics, we'll see with Hayward leaving.
Well, they got the Sixers. They got a couple of the acquisitions. They got Seth Curry.
Right.
He's a decent guy coming off the bench, and they got Dwight Howard. I
Right.
mean, who could still help him coming off the bench, but you never know his attitude. But,
Right.
The big guy, it all comes, what it comes down to with that team. If Ben Simmons should take off and become a superstar, and potentially he can be one, and if Ben Simmons all of a sudden becomes one of the best players in the league,
Right.
and the talent's certainly there for that, that changes everything. Now the Sixers are a serious team as far as going to the finals.
I definitely agree. And I think the acquisition of Doc Rivers will be better than what they had last year. I think they'll play
Brett Brown. Yeah, I agree, but I don't think it's a jarring move other people think it is.
Yeah, I think Doc may be able to bring them together more as a team. Maybe that's what they need, Jack, to get over that hump. I don't know. I really thought the 76ers and the Celtics had a good shot last year, and both kind of, Miami come up and beat everybody. So we'll see what happens. Jack, we're going to take our last timeout for today, and we'll come back on the other side and be ready to rock. So, folks, stick with us. We'll be right back with another quick timeout, and we'll be back with This Day in Sports History, one of my favorite segments, and any other leftover stuff we got about sports news. So we'll see you in a few minutes.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you talk, your name will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed. Yeah, well, Kyle's not here. How come? Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle's and other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's the first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
In wax, straight to the pack. BST Sports Cards has it all. Join the phenomenon with the best card breakers in the business. BSTBreaks.com. Get $10 off select breaks and boxes when you enter the code MACJACK, MACJACK at checkout on the BST Sports website. Also, in every spot you purchase from now to December 31st, gets you entered in their end of 2020 giveaway. Some prizes included $500 break credit, multiple authenticated jerseys, boxes, and more. This is huge. And you know what's great? They give back to their community. Over 100 winners announced on December 31st. More details on their website. Don't forget to put in the MACJAC code MACJACK at checkout to receive a special discount from BST. Happy holidays from BST and Mac and Jack. BSTBreaks.com, breaking live on multiple platforms daily.
Good morning, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Wednesday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., where we cover all the sports. We have some special shows coming up during the week where Saturday, me and Jack to have a debate show where we debate all the hot topics in sports. And Sunday, we have our special football show. Tomorrow's guest, Jack, we have on Byron Williams, our NFL analyst, and also Keith Angle from TGI Sports Talk, two great guests. So guys out there, tune in tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, as we go through our weekend sports. I'm Mac with your host, Jack. And Jack, I wanted to touch on something that I didn't talk about yet, and that's tonight we have a football game again, Jack. I mean, Wednesday night football, now Thursday night football.
You know, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost having football every day, Jack. So
with the Steelers, my mindset, the Steelers and Ravens on Monday night, no football the next day.
Yeah.
We're a Friday night game. Do we, Mac, assume we're going to have two games on Saturdays? The NFL always has that at the end of the year.
Yeah, coming towards playoffs at least, Jack. So, the first time, really the second time in football history, we had a Wednesday game. So I think the last one was like a 1949 or something ridiculous like that. But with the COVID, they're trying to get all the games in. They're trying to work the best they can, in this day and age where we have that COVID. And I think they're doing okay, Jack. They're doing what they can do, like baseball did, to try to get the season in and get to the finish line. I kind of tip my hat to them to try to do this. It kind of messes up.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I don't put the commissioners down the way other people do. Baseball is remarkable that they finished the year. Football is trying the best they can. It's hard.
Yeah, definitely. And so far we haven't had to go to a special, like extra week or a playoff round like baseball had to with their with the way they set up the seating. So hopefully it don't come to that, and they keep doing the best they can. I mean, the Ravens were affected. Of course, Jackson didn't play. I don't know if the Steelers would have got pumped up more for that game or not, or whether the Ravens would have won it.
Ravens wouldn't have won it.
Yeah, I don't think so either, Jack. I think the Ravens are done this year. I really do. Something's happened over there that either the defense has gotten weaker or the teams have figured out what the Ravens are going to do on offense. And right now, I mean, listen, you can say all you want about the Kansas City Chiefs, but the only undefeated team right now in the NFL is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's turn around and get to this day in history, Jack. Like I said, one of my favorite spots where we talk about, events and birthdays, and we can kind of reminisce. In 1956, Wilt Chamberlain makes his varsity debut with Kansas with 52 points and 31 rebounds, Jack.
I'll tell you, Wilt Chamberlain, when you think of his career, you have to think of all the near misses. He won 2 NBA championships, but there was so much left on the table, even in college. I mean, when he went to Kansas, they thought he was the 8th wonder of the world, that he was going to lead them for sure to the NCAA title. They got to the championship game and they lost in triple overtime. So
Right.
Wilt is still Chamberlain. If there was any one game of Chamberlain's career that he would want to have back that he lost that they won, I wonder whether that would have been the game that would have made him an NCAA championship, or whether it would have been one of the NBA finals.
Yeah, I mean, the man was incredible. Still holds records in the NBA. Unbelievable scorer, great rebounder, a great athlete. In fact, a lot of people don't know he came out of college and went to the Harlem Globetrotters, Jack. So,
Yeah, he was a what do you call it? Not a long jumper exactly. I think he pole vaulted Wilt too.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. He was a phenomenal athlete.
yeah, great athlete, Jack. And he had his debut back in 1956. In 1968, Jack, the NBA lowers the mound to create some offense, their offense run production. I kind of remember that.
Major League Baseball lowered the mound when?
In
1958?
1968, Jack.
Yeah.
And that was the pitchers were really dominating. You had some really great pitchers back then, and games were ending with low scores. So to increase the offensive production, they kind of lowered the mound.
Right. I think that was done after the season, if I'm not mistaken, because Bob Gibson had been so dominant. Bob Gibson had a historic 1968 season. I mean, his ERA was 1.12. I mean,
Right.
that's crazy off the charts. And he had an unbelievable season. And they ultimately lost in 7 games to the Cardinals. Bob Gibson won his first 2 World Series games. And even though he pitched well in the 7th game, Mickey Lolich was a little bit better. And that was a game where Kurt Flood stumbled on the fly ball, lost his footing. But Tim McCarver said it best, that maybe the Cardinals let down a little because Gibson was so dominant that they just relied on him rather than just relying on themselves.
Yeah, I mean, besides Gibson, I mean, there were some during the 60s, there were some unbelievable pitchers. And, I guess to me, a 2-1 game, Jack, as long as it's well played, is still a good baseball game. It doesn't have to be 10-9, So I don't know if that helped Major League Baseball or in a way it kind of hurt Major League Baseball, because I love to see the battles between the pitchers and batters and to see who is really the best at that bat. But it is what it is. In 1980, Don Sutton of the Los Angeles Dodgers, winningest pitcher, signs a 4-year contract with the Houston Astros, Jack. We really don't mention Don Sutton that much.
No, Don Sutton's not a likable guy when you hear him talk in different ways. I mean, he didn't like Steve Garvey because they felt Garvey was kind of like a company man, so he would harass Garvey. They even got into a fight because Sutton said something about Garvey's wife, but then later Sutton apologized. And when Michael Jordan decided he was going to play baseball, Don Sutton, in a very kind of harsh way ripped into Jordan. Don Sutton later would actually be a little bit a part of the Over the Hill gang after that. He went to the California Angels, and the Angels nearly made it into the 1986 World Series with Sutton on that team. They were one strike away against the Boston Red Sox in Game 5, and then Donnie Moore gave up the homer, and the Red Sox won that game in extra innings and went on to win the series. So there's one strike away from going to the series, not just as a Dodger, but as an Angel as well.
Great information, Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in 1982, after losing the world welterweight titles to Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns wins the super welterweight championship. Under I think it was against. Am I saying right? Wilfred Benitez. Yeah, and Jack, I remember watching that fight. Benitez fought very well. How good was Benitez as a fighter?
Well, when Scully was on before, I mentioned about young fighters burning out. Wilfred Benitez was a phenom. He won a world title at age 17 when he beat Antonio Cervantes for the world junior welterweight title. Benitez's thing was he just didn't train hard. He had such natural talent, and he was one of the greatest defensive fighters ever. It was like radar. During that fight with Hearns, Benitez stood by the ropes. He dropped his hands, and he dared Hearns to hit him. Hearns, one of the sharpest, most devastating punches. Hearns unloaded with every punch he had, and Benitez would keep tilting his head in different directions, and he made Hearns miss one pitch after the other. One punch after the other. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing to watch. And then in that fight against Hearns, Benitez started slow. He was arrogant. He came on a little later. Hearns won a 15-round decision. It was a good fight. Benitez was just a little level below Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard. Close, but just a little level beneath them.
From what I remember, he was a real good counter puncher. And as you said, his defense was really good.
Great. Its defense was great.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of a welterweight we don't talk about. Glenn Starlin, who's from my area too, was a great counter puncher. Did win a title. I remember him fighting the Cobra, and those
Donald
were some
Curry,
those were some really great matches, Jack. So I think a lot of boxers are like almost there. They're right on the cusp, and they just can't get over to becoming a superstar. I think Benitez and Starlin are great examples of that.
Starling, you make a great point with Starling. Starling fought Donald Curry when Donald Curry was considered by many to be the best fighter pound for pound in the world. Donald Curry was the equivalent of Don Mattingly in baseball when he was at his best. It didn't last that long, but at his best, he was really phenomenal. And Marlon Starling was the first fighter to defeat Mark Freeland.
Right.
The big upset. He stopped him. And you're right. Marlon Starling was on the cusp of stardom. Okay. Even though he became a world champion, he just needed that little extra push to be, a true superstar of the sport. But, it was just lagging a little bit. But nevertheless, a great fight. And some feel, he's should be in the Hall of Fame, but it's kind of borderline. If I had to compare Marlon Starling to a baseball player, I love making the comparisons. I would compare him to, let's say, Harold Baines in baseball, and Baines is in the Hall of Fame. But that's an issue in itself.
Do you think maybe the promoters had a hand in that, Jack? Because I don't recall him having. I mean, he did fight the Cobra. But he ever fight Sugar Ray Leonard or Thomas Hearns, the fighters around when he was really good?
Marlon Starling wouldn't want to know from Tommy Hearns. They sparred together and Hearns broke his jaw. Marlon Starling, as great as he wasn't going to beat the best version of Tommy Hearns. Wasn't going to happen. He wasn't going to beat the best version of Sugar Ray Leonard. Would he have been competitive? Yes. It wouldn't have been a walkover for those guys. He would have been competitive. He was a terrific fighter, Marlon Starling. There was a little story. Marlon Starling fought a fight. I think his name was Nino Hernandez. I went to the Felt Forum as a young man. New York, that's a smaller arena, Madison Square Garden, for those who don't know. And I'm sitting at ringside as a fan, as a young man, and I'm sitting next to this elderly Puerto Rican man who was very nice the whole evening. We were talking. It felt like I was sitting there with like an uncle, for example.
Yeah.
He was so warm, so nice, so great, the Puerto Rican gentleman. But then as soon as Marlon Starling stops Nino Hernandez and the referee calls the fight off, the man next to me goes crazy. He goes, I'm from Santurce, Puerto Rico. And he takes out a bottle of whiskey. He downs it, and he's starting to go borderline ballistic, like he wants to fight everyone there. And I'm saying, calm down. And finally, I said, I'm getting out of here. The man who I was sitting with the whole time, who seemed like kind of was becoming a mentor, you know, just a perfect gentleman, so nice, and an enjoyable evening with this guy, had me running for the exits. He wanted to fight everyone in sight, you know.
Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah.
That's a great story. So, let's see. Next up, we have in 1988, Barry Sanders wins the Heisman Trophy. I mean, I don't know. I don't have enough words to say how great Barry Sanders was. A mixture of power, moves, speed, could take over a game. You know, he did win the Heisman Trophy and had a great career. Maybe quit too soon, Jack. You know, maybe he stopped.
Maybe he quit at the right time, because football does take a toll on you.
Yeah.
Why did he exactly quit? That's the mystery. Was he tired of the Lions organization? Were they not giving him the contract he felt he deserved? Did he not like the direction of the team? That's the mystery in itself. And the Lions were upset because they kept trying to communicate and get in touch with them, and he wasn't returning calls and giving them that courtesy. I'd be curious, the inside story, what was really going through Barry Sanders' head.
Yeah, me too, Jack, because, I mean, he sure could have signed with another team if he was unhappy with the Lions. I mean, he was still not exactly in his prime, but pretty close. And, you know, the Lions really, we say this about the Lions a lot, they really didn't know what they had or didn't do something with what they had, like they've done with Matt Stafford and Megatron, where that organization, I don't know what's wrong with them. They just seem to, you know, not get it together when they have superstars on their team.
Well, Barry Sanders supposedly didn't have that big an ego. He wasn't into fame. I mean, I heard that he was just as happy to play touch football with his friends, go out in the afternoon, and he could get his fill of football that way, as he would with the NFL. Now, I'm sure that was an exaggeration, but something about Barry Sanders and the Lions and the lack of communication, to this day, it hasn't really been made clear. It's interesting that he quit a little earlier than he should, and their great receiver, Calvin Johnson, did as well. That's kind of a little unique, isn't it?
Yeah, and they didn't bother signing with another team, which I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why. I would love to find out. And, you know, Barry, and even Megatron to today, he really isn't on, he doesn't do a lot of self-promotion. Barry Sanders was really quiet for a long time after he left the Lions. I would love to find out what happened there and why they were so quiet and why they really don't talk about it. It's pretty. I don't know.
He even wrote a book. I think he could have written a book, and we could have gotten certain versions. You know, he's coming out a little more, and the Lions are embracing him a little bit lately, and he's coming more out to the forefront because, let's face it, the Lions, even though they've been around for ages, I'm not sure what was their first year in existence, but they've been around a long, long time. And he's their greatest player, you could say, in franchise history. So he's part of the Lion history.
Definitely. In the, let's see what we got next. Oh, yeah, the Latrell Sprewell back in 1990.
Sprewell, yeah.
Yeah, he was let go from Golden State because he attacked Coach P.J. Carlesimo.
That's not a good enough reason to let the guy go. I mean, bad reason.
I mean, I remember him coming to the Knicks and the big deal. I mean, they didn't go to championship with him. I guess he was
He
very
was a good player for the Knicks.
Yeah.
Though. He performed well. He was a good player. But after that, he went to the Minnesota Timberwolves,
Right.
and he was extremely good with Kevin Garnett and Sam Cassell. He made up their big three, but again, they never quite got to the finals. But they did make a serious run at the championship. They wound up on the cover of Sports Illustrated, the three of them. So, and then Sprewell later on during one of the games, PJ Carlissimo, the coach who he choked with the Warriors, was a commentator. And all of a sudden, Sprewell, after years, came over to the table and reached out to shake PJ Carlissimo's hand. So after years, Sprewell was telling him no hard feelings, which was,
Right.
listen, Sprewell did lose a lot of money with the suspension.
Sure
I mean,
did.
what he did, you could argue, could be in jail or whatever. I don't know. I don't want to get into that, what the penalty should be. But he did lose millions of dollars, so there were
Yeah.
repercussions. And
Yeah.
PJ
Over-
Carlissimo said he wanted to move on from the whole
Yeah.
thing and meant it.
Over 32 million he lost, Jack. A lot of money. And birthday in 1922, Joe Collins, and you don't hear this name, Yankees first baseman, played in 6 world championships. He was born in 1922, Jack.
Yeah, we got to study up a little more on Joe Collins because him and some other great players, they slip under the radar because when you hear Yankee first baseman, I mean, the Iron Horse pops into your head from years
Right.
ago.
And
Everyone
Mattingly.
after him, you
Yeah.
know, until modern times, Don Mattingly, so on, that isn't nearly as relevant to us.
Right?
That
And
shouldn't be the case.
That's true. In 1923, Tom Fears with the Rams, he was wide receiver, NFL receiving leader in 1950 was born. People forget how great the Rams offense was really that good way back when in the 20s and stuff. I mean, going through the ages, you know, Crazy Legs Hirsch, they had that free backfield thing, and they scored a lot of points. So wide receiver Tom Fears was born in 1950.
He became coaching the New Orleans Saints later.
Very true. Very true. In 1960, for the 1980 Miracle hockey team, Steve Haig was born. That still is one of the greatest moments in sports history, the Miracle on Ice.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Max. When people think about the Miracle with the United States hockey team, Olympic hockey team, they always think of 1980.
Right.
It happened 20 years before, the same thing. 20
Very
years
true.
before. The
Very
United
true.
States Olympic hockey team, big underdogs, won the gold medal.
Yeah. So
Squaw Valley. They
yes,
won Squaw Valley.
exactly. In 1969, Yankees owner Hal Steinbrenner was born, of course, related to George. So he was
The
born
year
in
the Miracle Mets win the World Series, Hal Steinbrenner's born. What a sign,
Exactly.
what an honor.
In 1970, Phillies All-Star pitcher Paul Bordris was born. A lot of people, again, don't know about Paul, but he was an All-Star pitcher for the Phillies, Jack. And I mean, there's a lot of birthdays out there, I guess, that I could bring up, but those are some of the bigger ones. So we're getting ready to close out the show. Tomorrow, again, we have on Keith Angle and Byron Williams. Guys, don't forget to go to the Mac and Jack Sports website at macandjacksports.com. Sports Insiders, Mac Sports Insiders. We got a few people that sponsor us. We got Fanatics, we got Z Catering, and we got our newest one, BST.com, that gives cards, signed jerseys, everything to do with memorabilia. You can click right on their links and brings you right to their stores and their services. And again, we have all our insiders on there, including Jack Hirsch. Some information about them. You can check some of their links of people they're working for and information they're doing. So it was a great show, Jack. Hopefully we get to watch our game tonight on Thursday Night Football. Wednesday Night Football.
Hey,
Yes, sir.
1 hour from now, that Thursday night football could be Friday night football with the way
That
the
is very
schedule
true,
rolls
Jack.
around.
So
Yeah.
NFL's keeping up with it, keeping us busy. And tomorrow we'll have our preview of the weekend on. Folks, join us, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
Thanks, Mac. Good day.